Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second ever episode of the Observer Football Podcast. If you didn't catch us on our last episode, we had Seydou on the on our first ever podcast to talk about his journey going from Ghana to Canada. Stay tuned for the second episode. I know in the last episode I did mention he would be on the next episode. However, due to scheduling, he'll be coming up on a future episode. Now, I have been very excited for today's podcast, and when I decided to start this podcast, you're one of my first on the list, Gode. So this man needs no introduction. He is well known in the Winnipeg soccer community. He is a leader, innovator, and brings communities together across Winnipeg and Manitoba. Gode Katembo.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, Gode. Gode, I just want to say, it's so, I've only known you it's been less than a year since I think December, but honestly, since I've met you, you've been nothing but a pleasure to interact with. Technically, you're my boss as well at CACN as well, and honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I couldn't think of anyone better to have on the podcast and just to share their story and to get to highlight how soccer impacted them in their journey in the community that they're involved in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Keith. It's a great pleasure, and I'm always very excited when I see people have an idea, a concept, and they bring it to life. And that's what you have done with bringing this idea of podcast. I think it was a few months ago that you approached me about the idea. So, you know what? I'm ready whenever you're ready. Here we are, and I'm super excited to share some of my experience, my journey as well.
Exactly, and it's one of those things when it's really cool to when you actually talk about an idea, and then when it comes to fruition, it's just it makes you feel good because it's like you have the idea on paper and then you execute it. Mm-hmm. That's been one of the biggest things I've seen. It's been an absolute pleasure to have this going. But with that being said, not only are you an instrumental figure in the community, you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes,
and we also do play on the same team, and you're one heck of a left back, by the way.
I'm an old guy now. I've retired.
Well, you certainly don't play like it because you have gone up to the task with some of these young forwards on the wing, and you shut them down. So I don't know. You're time doesn't seem to be affecting you really at all, Gode.
Yeah, when you become a coach and then trying to transitioning and trying to be on the administrative side of the game, the coaching side, and now the playing side. I tell people I retired early due to some of the other ideas and the concept that we're working on to try to develop the game here in Manitoba. So I think I started coaching at a very young age. Mm-hmm. I think my first time coaching, I was 17 years old. I was in grade 12 coaching U14 boys at Premier, which was at Portage Trail. So that was my first time I kind of fall in love with the other side of the game. So I was only 17, where a lot of people at 17, they're on the peak of their career, they want to go high. But I started transitioning slowly out of playing. I still played, even in university and college I played, but was not I didn't take it so serious because I knew the community side of things, that I was already coaching. I was already trying to create one or two things, gathering people, and just to play soccer, right? So I think at the early stage, I was already coaching, so kind of shifted away my focus to really train and to really be competitive. But I still do. If I have to play, be competitive, a little bit. I have a little bit of time here, but if I have ball on my feet, it's different.
Hey, I've seen in practice, you definitely got some good dribbles and a good shot. So honestly, no, it's been great to see and great to have you on the team still. And it's really cool you get to mention that. I don't hear a lot of individuals in the soccer community, especially, saying they started coaching at a young age. Usually, that's the type of age where you're talking about going to university, trying to maybe take that next step into life, just whether it be in another profession or maybe professional soccer. Mm-hmm. So at that age, I'm just really curious. When you started coaching for the first time, you said at Portage Trail, what was one of the biggest things you found was a passionate thing about coaching for you? What was the big benefit for you?
I think the biggest, so the way how I got into coaching was a little bit kind of a little bit interesting. Now, I think Portage Trail, a lot of clubs, you go until U18, right? And I knew Portage Trail was so great to me, the times that I played there, the friends, the memories, the parents that I met, everybody there was phenomenal. So during my transitioning year, I was like, okay, I'm going to university. let me do a little bit something to give back. The whole concept was like, hey, giving back, no strings attached. And of course, I needed some of my high school hours of volunteering. And I was like, you know what? It's not going to hurt for me to volunteer coaching kids soccer and playing. Like, it's fun. It doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like volunteering. It's something that I do. So the moment I took it on, I think was the year that also it happens. Like I was not planning to be, I just wanted to be somehow involved. And then I had the privilege to be given a team of U14 boys. And one of the boys that I actually coach is one of the guys that won last year MVP in the tournament, LeBlanc.
Yeah.
He was the first player that I coached back then. He was like 14 years old, and I still have all of those pictures. And they're like, okay, you are looking for a team to coach. They gave me a U14, team to coach. So I was coaching with one of my buddies, Nikki Amorum. So we started coaching. Of course, I was there because I was older than him. So he was there to assist me. But also I had a guy that I was reporting to try to tell me. So I got into the coaching. Was like a fluke. And then they gave me a team. And that year we had a lot of challenges, but we also had a lot of opportunity because it was my first time coaching. And they give me U14 Premier Boys. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot of responsibility. But we end up doing very well, actually. We lost to Northwest in finals. That was my first time coaching. And that was at Premier Boys.
Wow.
So since then, I was like, maybe I'm enjoying the coaching side of the game more than actually playing because I was actually able to teach concept, and kids who are capturing the concept and they go to execute it in the game. I'm like, ooh, I really like this side of things, right? So that's when I got into coaching.
Okay, and I have to say, like, that's quite the impressive first start to the season going all the way to the finals.
Yeah.
I think also what I've noticed too, like, I mean, I want to get your input on this, but from when you coaching SWB, you have a bond with the players. Like, there's one part of getting tactics right and then being able to put the players on the field, but it's also man management, right? It's getting to know the players, getting to, at that age, you're helping develop them into men.
Absolutely.
Right. And a lot of I played sports a lot growing up. So I took a lot of what I learned from sports into discipline, into real life.
Yeah.
I guess that was one of the aspects I kind of wanted to know, because when I see you with the SWB players, you have a bond with a lot of them. I see you joking around. Like, I even know with Onana, for example, Benny, it could be Sim, Costa, any of the players. Like, that's one thing I've noticed. It's been a really big difference from, let's say, other teams I played on to this one. I see that there's a very close-knit relationship there, and you're able to help develop and be able to be a mentor to a lot of these kids coming up. So I guess I want to say, how did you kind of approach and how did you learn how to be a good man manager for these kids?
So that's a very good question. I think the greatest challenge that any coach is going to have, even on a professional level, in university, even on a highest level, is managing talent. So how do you manage talent? You have these 22 men, different personalities, different behaviors and habits and all of that. The greatest thing that if you are going to bring the best out of your players, you got to know each one of them individual, one by one. There's some guys that I tease around in practice. There's some guys that I know each one of them, their personalities. Like Onana, I will tease him all day. It comes to Benny. It comes to Sim. I always have to scream before I can get his attention. But compared to the other side, I tell you once, kid, we got to do this here. Like, I got it. Sim, on the other hand, oh my, you got to tell 3-4 times, but you got to know each one of their personality. I think the biggest challenge that coaches make, or the biggest mistake they make, is when they get this group of 22 players and you expect them to understand everything the same way.
Yeah.
It's not just a reality. So one of the most important thing, or my coaching philosophy, is when I'm developing a player, when I decide to coach on a player, because as coach, I think we do have a very important role that we play in athletes' life. And we have to understand it's not just the day that they are coming to play soccer, right? If you want to bring the best out of them, you have to understand, okay, what's going on in your family life? How are you doing in school if you're going to school? How is work? Because all of these, they do affect their performance. For example, you're having an interesting game. Maybe you're playing today's game. You had a terrible day at work, right? You had a terrible day at work, and then you come to the game, you're already angry, you're already frustrated, and you make one silly mistake. Now, me as a coach, I decide to, maybe scream at you. Now, that the same place that you're supposed to find the joy, the peace, that's why we play football. It's the same place where you're finding that the negative, and you don't need that.
No.
Right. So when you as a coach, you understand, what's going on in your player's life? How are they doing? What do they need help with? How to socialize? You are able to bring the best out of them. Right.
Absolutely.
So that's my coaching philosophy, is like, how can I build a holistic athlete? Because yes, we're playing soccer, but me as a coach, I understand the important role that I become a figure, father figure role. Because sometimes they have issues, they come to me rather than talking to their dads, right? Or they will have something. Oh, my girlfriend, broke up with me, this and that. That's okay. Let's sit down. What's going on? What's happening? And being there for them, I think, is a greater thing that I take joy in that. Beside them being great athletes.
Yeah. I think that's also I've been in many soccer teams throughout the years, even hockey as well. And I think I've always performed well when the coach actually kind of got to know you more and was able to offer supports like that. I haven't seen it to the great extent that you've done with SWB, especially, and just what I've seen how you develop. But it's really, I think, a very important note for any aspiring coaches or coaches currently coaching to take kind of a note out of your book, because I think a lot of, soccer is a part of life for us, but then also there's other things that go on, whether it be job, whether it be personal life, and everyone's going to be different. Everyone responds differently to stress, to how they're feeling in terms of how to handle adversity. So I think just kind of tailoring that response and offering that support just gives you the best of the players. And I've seen that on SWB as well. I think that one thing I've seen is I'll be honest, when I talk to some of the players right now and they're saying, I'm 21, I'm 22. I'm like, God, I just turned 29. I'm not a young player like they are, but you can see have that emotional maturity to a lot of stuff. And they know that if they have any problems coming up, they know they can come talk to you. So that's one thing I've really kind of I've noticed on the team. And I've been really enjoying about it because it's that environment. So I think that's something I just wanted to say hats off to you. And I wanted to get your feedback because I never really been a coach. So I wanted to kind of get the expert opinion on it. So that's really good thought. But I kind of wanted to also talk about you as well in terms of personal life. So, I assume you don't think you were born in Canada, right?
No.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So would you be able to kind of give us your background, maybe where hometown you're from, when you come to Canada? How does that kind of look? I'm kind of interested to hear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just about a little bit of my background. Is my name, of course, my name is Gode. I'm originally from Congo, DRC, central, the big country in the center of Africa right there. I flee from Congo due to war back in 2004, and I moved to Uganda. Where I learned a lot of my English, and I lived there in a refugee camp for some years with my brothers, my mom and my dad, of course. Then we migrated. We moved to Canada back in 2009 with the whole family, and kind of grew up. I came here, I think, when I was 14, 15, started playing soccer, started getting engaged in the soccer community. And of course, I'm the youngest among all my siblings. All of them who are ballers were all played, right? But majority of them, they retired. And one thing that I wanted to say, I don't want to move away from the game. So if I'm no longer playing, let me get involved in coaching. And that coach, I think, is the one thing that gave me the vision of, African Cup of Nations, but without boundaries, because I did not want to move away from the game. And that's just an encouragement for, players, or you're thinking about retiring. But we need you as referees, as officials, as administrators of the game, as coaches. There's still something for you. Don't feel like, or just because you're no longer you're no longer coaching or you're no longer playing, there's nothing for you to do. So that's a little bit about me, and kind of moved here and went to high school here, graduated, went to college, played soccer a little bit here, went to university, played soccer here. And since then, I've just been in a community and tried to see on what can I do to really develop the game here in Manitoba. When I see some provinces, what they are doing and I say we still have a long way, not only in Manitoba, but across Canada. Now we have FIFA World Cup coming to Canada 2026. So I'm like, I still have a long way, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that's a little bit about myself, things that are, a little bit about my history, and yeah.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So You talk about like, for example, I was born here, so I haven't had the experience to move almost across the world.
Yeah.
Get accustomed to a new country. Learning a second language, coming to high school, and just learning just a different community here and culture.
Mhm.
We talk about Canadian soccer, and today we actually have a really big game at the time of recording. We're playing against, I think is it Venezuela we're playing
I
against
think
tonight?
so.
Yeah, 8 p.m. Yeah. So, when this is what takes me for interest here. Like, we have a lot of history and we have a lot going on actually in Canada in soccer, and especially in the Manitoba community here.
Yeah, absolutely.
When we comes to like right now, in terms of when you also started in high school playing through soccer that way,
Mhm.
how have you seen any development from the game? How the game's developed since you first came to Canada to now? Like, have you seen how the development's been?
Yes, there have been some developments that have happened on a youth level, but there's still a long way to go. And just to say, there's a lot of politics here in soccer, just in any soccer. Even here, even back home, even on international level, we see it on even on FIFA level. But sometimes that really hinders development. You have folks that are coming in with new ideas, with new concepts. Oh, we can do this, we can do that. But the governing bodies that are already there, they're not really opening up space for folks with new ideas, with new concepts. No, they are comfortable in their little bubble that they don't want anybody else to come in and to say, okay, we have to think of the way maybe, things that we used to be done before, can we change a little bit? Because when I first came, we had Portage Trail, Southend United, Phoenix, Bon Vital. Who else? There was
Northwest.
Northwest, right? So if you're living in downtown, you automatically play for Portage Trail. You could not cross borders, no matter how much you like. So soccer, it was based on a geographic location. Now, there was pros and cons to that. One of the biggest challenges, like when I was playing at Portage Trail and when I was coaching, is our club, because in downtown, that's where all the immigrants used to live. So when you go play against the other teams, most of the time you find, Portage Trail is the immigrant kids. And we used to be very good. Was good, but at the same time, there was a lot of racism that happened from the parents, from other coaches, because when you come, only people from this area, they're most likely to be immigrant only, right? But now that has changed. Now you can have a youth from downtown playing for Northwest, playing for Southend United, playing for Bon Vital. I think that's one key, thing that I've seen, which is a very positive thing. But there's still other development that needs to be happened. They need to open up some borders for academies to do certain things, because they say, because you're not sanctioned with the MSA, you can't work with this, or you can't do this. They're like, everything we're doing is for the love of the game, for the development of the game in our province, in our city, right? Why so much restricted rules that sometimes, can we open up the borders? Because where we come from, soccer, you play anytime you want. Like the borders, the rules, no. The rules because you're this federation. Yes, if you're playing on a very, representing maybe your country or the province, or yes, there's that. But where you say, okay, this team cannot play with this team because this team is not sanctioned, this and that, it's not there, right? People are playing all year round, and that's why we are seeing a lot of talenters coming from Africa, coming from South America, coming even from of Latin America and all of the other places, because people play. There's so much restricted rules on a grassroots level. Understand, when we move up and you're moving, you can tie up the rules, but on grassroots level, let kids play. Just let people play.
One of the prime examples of that is infrastructure too.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorite fields actually in the city is Gordon Bell.
Ooh.
Reason being is because it's downtown.
Yeah.
It has a totally different feel from any other field. And you see players from all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
You see it from all different ages. And honestly, when we have practices at Gordon Bell, I love seeing just all types of ages of kids, could be even adults, playing soccer, just picking up the game and just even playing a scrimmage, just doing that stuff. That stuff I didn't really see, because I grew up in this end of town in North Gladone, and never had that type of infrastructure. It was you either had Phoenix, or it was you were a Bonnie, and there was not a lot of between. So
Yeah.
And obviously with like our winter season, there wasn't also a lot of indoor fields. Like since I was born here in the 90s, in early 2000s, there was no Recplex. There was no Leela.
Oh.
There was Gateway.
Oh yeah,
And I
remember that one.
Yeah,
And Cover Hall on the other side of Portage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's one thing, it's just like we need a lot more accessibilities those that way.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing that really stood out to me at the youth level. Gode, when we talk about hockey, we develop some of the best players in the world. And when we talk about kids participating in sports, soccer is number one in Canada.
Oh yes, I looked at some of those stats and I was very shocked.
And then you're telling me that we have like almost double the numbers in soccer. It's also one of the cheaper sports to play. And in hockey is known to be so expensive. And trust me, some of my parents sometimes back in early 2000s, late 2000s, $6,000 a year.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I got offered in when I was 16 to it was either play AAA or go work, and that would have cost my parents like $6,000.
Oh my goodness!
So and you have to pay like $1,000 just for tryout.
$1,000 for tryout?
Yeah. So and it's just funny how we have such a great developmental system for our hockey players because we have a quarter less of the players at a big hurdle, but then when it comes to soccer players, our youth, they seem just to either drop interest of the game. We don't have the developmental system to take these players from the talent they do have to the next level. And it's just one of the biggest frustrating things to see.
I agree with you on that.
And that's why I wanted to use this kind of as like a segue. Because not only are we talking about infrastructure, not only are we talking about like local soccer academies here, which don't get me wrong, there's more that's opened up. There's a lot of other teams as well and professional in Europe who do tryouts and do camps with the organizations. But when we talk about, let's say, like, families that are wanting to get into a sport, relatively, have their kids be active at a relatively low cost. When I first came across like the Sports Without Boundaries team, I thought that it was a very great program. And I've been able to go to a couple sessions just in terms of like the drop-in sessions for the programs for kids and everything in the inner city programs. And I wanted to kind of touch base on that because, I will admit I have kind of grown up in a privileged life. Like my family, I'm an only child. I don't have siblings.
Nice.
So I've had a little bit easier. But I believe some of my friends or even some of the acquaintances I met in soccer over the years could have really benefited through the Sports Without Boundaries program because a lot of those players didn't maybe know that they could have resources to play soccer or to get into that program. So could you kind of like talk about how you came about developing the Sports Without Boundaries program and just talk about the program in general?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So the Sports Without Boundaries, initially it started with a program called Free to Play. So this was, I think, was my year when I was in university. Again, I was coaching on some of these academies again. And a lot of leadership change. I decided, I'm like, okay, whatever I've learned from these academies, I'm going to go in a grassroots community and give it up all for free. Our kids at Sports Without Boundaries, I tell them, we can give you the most premier level kind of practices depending on where you are. Just because you're going to these big academies, we have the potential to do that. But we just want to let kids play, but also depending on where they live. So where we started Sports Without Boundaries, before it was used to call Free to Play. And the initiative of Free to Play is let every kid have the opportunity to play, especially soccer. Because I was a soccer coach, I'm like, I got the equipment, I can coach, all I need was fields. Outdoor, not a big problem. Was not until indoor came, again, talking about facility. And I had the privilege to meet with the mayor and a couple few MLAs and MP talking about, can we invest more, build more indoor facilities for soccer? Because it's not only for soccer. American football can use it. Frisbee can use it during the winter. So a lot of these infrastructures is needed in the community. Now, during summer, it is easy for me to run what we run at Sport Without Boundaries. When it comes to winter, it's a huge challenge. I'll tell you one of the sad story. I think it was the first time we moved into the Replex. This was the first time we were running Free to Play before it became Sports Without Boundaries. Free to Play as a program. It used to be every Friday night at the Replex. Now, they give us one of those small quarter field, right? Now, because of high demand, that small quarter field, we're like, okay, program's supposed to be only 230 kids. Even that is still a lot of people in that small whatever. Then it went to 40. It went to 50. It went to 60. It went to 70. Showing up every Friday at the Replex to play. And some of these kids were just under 21, right? Under 21. And I had to come to a point. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't have you. I just don't have the resources I need to keep everyone. So I started saying, okay, if you're 21, you're out. If you're 20, you are out. If you're 18, you are out. Only 17 and under, and only 16 and under. But what happened is like, what still chose me? Some of these kids that I end up kicking in that program, not because I didn't want them to be there. It's just because we did not have the facilities. Some of these kids end up joining gangs because, okay, what are they doing with their Friday evening? They have nowhere to go. Soccer was the only avenue that kept them busy connecting with friends. Now, I kicked them out of the program, not because I wanted. It was too packed. There's no way you can have 50 kids on that small. Like, it's just impossible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So, and some of these kids, some of these youth, when I look at them, it pains me because I had the opportunity to make a difference, but I was lack of resources. Right? And each time I sleep at night and I say, and that's where Sports Without Boundaries was came to life. And I'm saying, okay, that was just a program. Okay, we're going to start an organization and it's going to champion those kids. We are going to look for as much resources needed so that one day I don't have to tell a kid we don't have space for you. Oh, because I don't have enough money. Oh, because no, I will look for money. I will coach. I just want you to show up so you can play. So that became a part of our mission to say, okay, how can we make sports accessible and affordable? Because it's one thing to say it's free, but it's another thing, how do they get to the program? So now we started offering things like bus pass. Now, right now, we're in the process of raising money to say, can we get a minivan? The minivan we usually rent out from the another organization, but we would love to have the one we use for the soccer program, for the game days when we go out, right? But we would love to fundraise enough of our program. But the other thing, we're like, okay, but another thing that we decided to do was to bring the program where the kids are. So part of our plans for this year, rather than telling kids from all the way from Elmwood to come all the way to downtown kids, because that's another resources that sometimes they don't. Mom and dad don't have a vehicle. Maybe they're new to Canada or they're low income. And nobody can bus with them all the way to Golden Bay. So that becomes another barrier that is there. Yes, you have made the sports free. Yeah, it's for free. But how did they get there? So we had to come up with a concept to say, okay, we're going to develop a concept. We are going to be like Tim Hortons. We are going to be like McDonald's so that kids within a walking distance or biking distance, they can go and find soccer game going on or soccer program going on within their neighborhood. That's our future plans. And try to say, how can we bring the game where the kids are? Right? So that would take a lot of resources, it would take a lot of money, it would take a lot of collaboration and partnership from organizations to coaches to volunteers to everybody in the community to make that happen.
Oh, absolutely. But like you said though, if like you with the resources and how you've been able to grow the program, I can even say that you've made a big difference on these kids' lives.
Mm-hmm.
And not only is it about playing the game of soccer, developing your skills, making those friendships, distracting, obviously providing that outlet for them to not to turn into it could be other aspects of life, whether it be gangs and crime and things like that. But one other stuff that you did also, I've experienced, is you do also offer other programs that offer
beyond sports.
And, I think that's another thing too. You're not just offering a sport for the kids to play and, have exercise, but you're also offering resources to help them mature and to be prepared for life in general.
Absolutely.
And, I think that's another little aspect to touch on too, because that's a very important part of life. And I sometimes think that our public school system sometimes doesn't do a good enough job in preparing kids for that. And I think what you and Beyond Sports and Sports Without Boundaries does is provide that extra level of support for these kids to help prepare them for the next step in life.
Absolutely. And that brings me back to my coaching philosophy. We're looking at the holistic individual development, right? So one of the biggest things is I don't want them to come and be phenomenal, great soccer players and maybe they are failing to cope with their mental health. Maybe they are failing in their classes. Maybe they are not thinking about what to do after. Because then me as a coach, I feel like a failure. It's not just me making you to, to do cool tricks, but if I've not helped you or guide you to make certain right decision in your life in a time that you're in my program, then I have failed as a coach. That's my personal opinion, right? So now coach's responsibility or duty, but I believe when you become a coach or you want to be in that position as a coach, understand there's a lot of great responsibility that comes with it. So beyond sports program, and these are some of the concepts we're still trying to work on. You and I, our financial lyrics, say, how can we help some of these kids, some of the newcomers or low-income kids who are playing in our program? How can we help them to make smarter decisions with their money? That's one side of sports without boundaries. Beyond sports programs also look, okay, how are you doing holistically? How is your mental health? Where we come from, mental health is a taboo. How do you tell your dad, I'm depressed? You're like, well, you survived the war. You have food and shelter in your house. Like, bro, you are good, right? But it's a real thing that they're battling with, and they don't even know how to speak to that. So we created that avenue, that space, where to say, hey, I know we played good soccer yesterday, but how are you doing? Just pause. Like, it's not soccer, but how are you doing as an individual? So that's on the mental health support and the mentorship side of it. Oh, we're looking for jobs. Some of these guys are new to Canada or low-income families. They have never seen anybody in their household hold a job in Canada. They don't even know what that means. So we want to help them to become these great members of society. We have to say, okay, maybe these are things not to do. You shouldn't be on your cell phone when you're at work. Make sure you show up early. Maybe if you're going to be late, make sure you let us. And these are some of the principles that I try to develop in our programs. I always ask kids, why are you late? Right? Because I want them to get to develop a habit to say, hey, coach, I'm going to be late. Oh, today I can't make it to pray. Because this is what will happen in real life, right? So say, okay, if you're going to be late, let us know that you can make it. Or if you can make it, let us know so they can develop healthy habits. How do we cope when you lose? Do you become angry? Do you become aggressive? Do you feel like beating up other people? Because these are things in life. How do we help you to cope with your stress? How do we help you to cope with your anger in a proper way? So when you look at SWB, yes, that's why I say when people put us, oh, are you guys planning to be another academy? I'm like, no, we are looking beyond soccer. We're looking beyond sports. We're looking on how we can develop great athletes holistically, right? Not just on a performance level, off and on the pitch. How are they doing as individuals?
Yeah. No, and I think that's one aspect that I sometimes think that gets a little neglected by some programs, especially in academies too, is just because when these athletes go to take the next step for professional level, and other things that these professional teams look at is also how is the player's life off the field.
Thank you.
Because, and I think the one word to sum it up is discipline. I think that's a huge thing that you have to instill, especially in the youth, because habits do develop, and sometimes hard to break. Sometimes hard to break old habits, right?
Absolutely.
So I think that's a great thing to do, is to help instill that support, but also provide that, enforcement of them to help develop the discipline to help keep them accountable, right? So if you're going to be late for work, you're going to be late for your training session, that's totally fine. If you're late due to a personal reason, totally get it.
Yeah.
But just give us a heads up so we can adjust accordingly, right?
Exactly.
So it's just those little things, and I think everyone can take a page out of your book, is to help not only develop better athletes, but develop just better, how can I say this? Better human beings in general.
Absolutely.
Because we want to make sure that they can be happy on the field, but also happy off the field too.
Yeah.
So, talking about that, and thank you so much for providing your insight on it. I feel like I've learned quite a bit just about coaching. I've only ever run goalkeeping sessions. So I actually never really had the chance to actually coach like a U14 team and things like that. But so I think getting your knowledge was really good to know, because I think a lot of our viewers are going to be able to understand that other side of football. Understand that side of like, okay, I'm not just a player, I'm a coach in this aspect. How am I going to get the better of my players?
Absolutely.
So the next topic I want to talk about, and again, this is kind of like speaking to like your visionary mind. And
now you're picking my brain now.
So as we kind of briefly talked about, we have a really big tournament going on right now. Called and they're actually playing tomorrow. I'm playing it tomorrow.
Oh, who are you playing again?
I'm playing Ghana. I'm playing with Ghana against Canada.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'm gonna be playing in that, so it's gonna be interesting. But the Canada Africa Cup of Nations tournament, I must say, um, it has to be like one of the marquee events in Winnipeg
Yeah.
for the summer. A lot of the soccer community here loves the event. I will say our social media team at Canada Africa Cup of Nations have been
Yeah.
doing a fantastic job.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I can tell this with the Instagram; it's been popping off. Like
Hey,
it's been,
all credit to you. You're one of those social
hey,
media teams. All credit to you guys.
but I just wanted to say, like, you know, and hats off not only to me but also to the team and you as well.
Yeah.
And then we also have the expansion in Ontario,
Oh, yeah.
huge
That's a
as well.
huge one.
Yeah. So, kind of building upon this, I know I know a lot of it was been for the African community here, and I know it's also expanded some to like Nations Cup, like in the
The
winter.
Nations Cup. Yeah.
Um, can you kind of tell me how that like started? Like, where'd you get the idea to make this fantastic tournament?
It's actually very interesting. So this goes back to 2019, right? I was just coming out from college, and I was like, bro, and and I was tired. I was just tired of the mainstream soccer here. Like that's when I also stopped coaching at some of the academies, and I was planning to to play in MSL on some of the premier teams. It's just when there's no passion, there was no excitement that I was looking for in regards. Like there was good players, but the soccer community fan base, like people were not just like there was good players. Like you can tell they can play, but when you go watch the premier game, you find like there's only 10 people in the stand. I'm like, oh my, this should be like hundreds of people here, right? It's premier, right? Um, Back in 2019, I just finished college. I was working on summer stuff, and just one day, and I think I was going through my dark moments. My dad was in emergency for like 3 weeks, and I was just like, I was on my like lowest point of my life. At that time, I couldn't get admitted to the program that I really wanted to go. I wanted to get into the Aspra School of Business. So during that year, they broke the partnership between Red River and that. And then some of my grades were not just good enough as a student athlete. Some of you will understand if you're a student athlete at university or college, you find very few that have 3.0 and above, right? Very few, right? So I couldn't transfer into some of my programs. So I felt like my whole world was just shutting down. I was like, what am I going to do? I couldn't get into my Aspra School of Business at U of W. They were really complicating me. And then I got an offer, I said, you know what, I'll go CMU. I connected with my former athletic director there, Russell William. Now he's an athletic director at Providence. It's like, oh, you want to play soccer again? You can continue now. You have your diploma. You can turn into a degree. I said, you know what? I said, less. So I came up with the concept. I was like, okay, during the summer, I was already, Seydou and Seydou was a team coach for Ghana. I was a team coach for Congo back then. And then we had for communities. Like, what we're doing these friendly games, so, why don't we create a tournament? So back before I created that tournament, there was another tournament called African Cup, something here in Manitoba back in 2008, 7, 10. But it died off because of just politics, lack of integrity. People did not see the community first. They only saw the best interest of their own pockets. That's sometimes when people try to do with these tournaments, like, oh, I can make money out of it. And all of they're like, no, you're in a wrong game if that's why you are trying to create anything with soccer, right? Even you're creating soccer academy or soccer program. If money is the first thing that you are going in there for, yes, you can make money, but you will miss the bigger vision, the bigger picture, which is about community and giving people the platform to play and enjoy the beautiful game of soccer. So back in 2019, we started, and I called it particularly money. It started as Manitoba African Cup of Nations, of course, for communities. And that following year, is it 2020 when COVID hit?
Yeah, 2020. Yep.
Yeah, so 2020, the first year was good. Congo won. I was coaching. So I was like, yeah, Congo won again. So if I start coaching, I make sure that my team really perform. And I was coaching men's back then, and I was only about 19 years old, 20 years old, and I was coaching people who are older than me, and they were men, right? Our tournament is men's. So 2020, the tournament, COVID hit. But I've been working on this concept because I believed in the idea. 2020, and I said, people, when everybody was shutting down their concept, their events, I was like, oh, this is the right opportunity because people and a lot of people got affected by COVID mentally, because our people in low-income families did not have the privilege to say, oh, I have a basement where I can go down there and play, then come up. No, they're living maybe in a one-bedroom apartment, 2-3 people. You are squishing there. You can. So when they were able to lift up some restrictions, I was still planning. I did not cancel the tournament that year. That was the year when the tournament took off. Right? After they lifted the restrictions, and of course, we were playing at the soccer field, so people will still be able to separate like enough distance. What was it? 2 meters or 2 feet, whatever the distance it was, right? So that was the day. Another 4 communities came in, so it became 4. So we saw the double from 2019, despite of COVID, it doubled. 2021, I think we still had COVID, right?
We did. We said we had that restrictions come up in the May.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, gonna continue planning, and everything just, as soon as they lifted the restrictions, kick off. And then we saw that another growth. 4 more communities came in. It became 12. And then every single year there has been growth. Every single year there's a new concept. So in the tournament, we came to understand other people started approaching us like, you guys are doing phenomenal job. Well, you guys is phenomenal. We started just as African communities, right? But the game is not tied to only African. But we're like, okay, we're the only one that couldn't afford to be in MSL league, and there were style of playing. What we were looking for was just Saturday and Sunday, nothing crazy because of just the financial side of things. And then other communities started approaching. Oh, we want to be a part of the tournament. We're like, okay. But some of you are playing already in MSL, and we don't want to kind of step in on anybody. Or let's create a concept called All Nations. So we got Italy, India, this, and all came in because they saw what we were doing, the work that we were doing in the community, and we were doing tournaments not like anybody else. It was not just a weekend tournament. It was not just one person running the whole tournament. No, we have advisory board. We have people to hold each other accountable to make sure that we hold the highest level of integrity and excellence in our production when we execute any plans, right? So that kind of, and then other communities started coming in. Then we just start seeing growth and growth. Every single year I see growth. Yeah. Every single year. Like this year, new concept. While doing partnership with Val FC, this will not have happened. But I had this vision. I was one of the podcasts actually, I think 4 years ago, and they asked me, tap into my vision. I said, one day I envision being in a Presence Auto Stadium. And it did not hit me until the day of the press conference when after everybody left, we went down on a soccer field. And I imagine I almost teared up. I'm like, this vision is coming to life, right? Now we're seeing a lot of growth. Now Ontario African Cup of Nations is going. This is the first year we are having it in Ontario, and we already have 12 communities. So next year, our projection is those communities to double. Because why? You have so many cities. You have communities in GTA, you have communities in Brampton, you have communities in Mississauga, Windsor, Ontario, London, Hamilton. All of these is areas that we're going to cover next year. So there's a lot of work that's need to be done. But again, this is just the beginning.
Very much so. And I want to touch back to the Ontario one, but I just want to give some context just for some of viewers who may not know the Canada Cup of Nations tournament. When you say passion, when you say excitement, I think of the tournament. Ooh. I want to give you this little example. So I was there last weekend. So I ran into an old soccer teammate who I haven't seen since 2016. We played MMSL together. I won't name him on the podcast just because I don't want to, for privacy reasons. But he is like, hey, Keith, how's it going? I haven't seen you forever, man. He's like, you look the same. He always calls me Joe Hart for some reason. But he told me, he's like, he's a social worker. Mm-hmm. And he's like, yeah, I don't really play MMSL anymore. I don't play like any other league here in Winnipeg just because it's just enough time. But he's like, every year I come and play for Kenya. Ooh. So talking about, and that really kind of hit me because I'm like, you talk about excitement, you talk about passion, talk about these players are excited to be playing for the community, right? Mm-hmm. And when you go to a game, and trust me, if you watch like some of the clips and the full games on the YouTube channel, I'll put the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, some of the fans, some of the interactions are just insane. Like I know with Congo, Nigeria.
Oh, did you see the final of Congo this past weekend?
Yeah.
The one running around the dad that was, I was like, yeah, I saw the clip. I was like, yeah, that's the fan. He always come every single year, right? And it's insane. Just the amount of passion.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Just absolutely love it. And I think that's one thing that I really, it's just that sense of community, but it's also the players are representing their country. They're representing that part of the community, and it creates that excitement. It's kind of like, I always compare it when people ask me about it. I'm like, it's like a mini World Cup tournament. It's like like them representing their country.
Yeah.
And it's for them to just represent their culture. And then when my friend from soccer I haven't seen in years told me about that, I was like, wow. It's like, he doesn't play competitive soccer all year round, but he'll make time just to play for Kenya, for example.
Wow.
It's just one of those impacts. And then, with Canada being like one of the most diverse communities and countries in the world, Manitoba is, don't get me wrong, we're pretty big here in Manitoba. And, it's a good starting point and everything, but Ontario's a totally different animal in terms of population, in terms of infrastructure. So when you talk about 12 teams,
that's the beginning. First year. Remember, it took us 3 years in Manitoba, 4 years to get to 12 teams.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, with the team that we have out there, I imagine sky's the limit, honestly. And I feel like I know we talked about this becoming like a national project where this goes all across all provinces. But I feel like this is a really big, this can really make a big change for Canada soccer here. Oh, yeah. And it just brings all these players together and communities in Highland. Because honestly, Gode, I didn't realize there was these big communities in the city.
See, that's me. Even me, who from some of these communities, is I come to meet certain people like, wait, where are you from? And then I'm like, wow, I didn't know that we have your community here in Winnipeg. But until I come to the soccer fields and I say, wow, each time I meet different kind of people in the community.
It's so enlightening and it's so great to see. And that's one thing that I guess want to implore you for doing, because without you thinking that, unless when you're 19 at that time thinking of that project, and I know unfortunately your dad was going through a tough time there, and I'm sorry about that, but just thinking of that idea and then turning it into what it is today and then keeping on growing, it just blows my mind. And I'm so happy that you're able to not only reach the dreams you want, but also see it grow continually from there. Because for those who want to know, there's going to be a final for the Manitoba Cup of Nations at Princess Auto Stadium, the home of Valor, for the final game of the Canada Cup of Nations tournament. So not only are you playing for your country or for your community, you're also, if you make the final, you're going to be playing in front of a big crowd.
Big crowd.
And Princess Auto Stadium is one of the nicer stadiums here in Canada for the CFL, especially for the Canadian Premier League.
Yeah, it's a 32,000 seat capacity.
Wow. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
For some of these players, they'll never have the ability to go play in front of a professional capacity.
Yeah.
And it's just different with a brand new turf field, walkout.
Tell me about it. All the screens are going to be on, the audio is on, and the pressure is on. Let's see what you're capable of doing.
Yeah. And, and imagine those players, whether it be they score, they make a huge save, they're doing it in front of their friends, their family. And
that's a dream coming true. Oh. I mean, I wish I could just take even one picture playing and then I'll tell maybe my grandkids, say, I used to play professional. How would they know? If I'm playing in a beautiful stadium like that, just nice picture in there. Yeah, but it would be a phenomenal experience for the players. Right? We're really looking forward for that. But that's a concept that we want to do across Canada.
Absolutely.
Right? But in order to do this, I mean, there have been a lot of phenomenal people that have come, that have joined hands to make sure that this vision come to life. So often people, they see the visionary, but also there's a lot of great people are making sacrifices on Saturday and Sunday. Even me, myself. Now, the one thing I would say, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. For the past 6 years, I'll tell you, I have not taken Saturday and Sunday of July to end of August.
Wow.
All my Saturday and Sunday. So you could see how much sacrifice that I had to make for my Saturday and Sunday for 6 years, July to August, Saturday and Sundays, I couldn't travel. My girlfriend back then, who's my wife now, It's like it was bringing a lot of strain in the relation when we're supposed to be at the field at the Saturday. Right now we have a big team. Now people are capturing the concept. Even if I miss one day, I was in Ontario. They're like, nobody noticed that I was gone, which was good. And that's what I want.
Yeah.
Right. But to see how people now are catching up on a vision, I'm like, okay, I can contribute on that. You came like last year, the moment we talk, and then you're like, yeah, I think I want to be a part of this. I said, no problem. Where can you get involved? Or social media? They say, here's a spot for you.
Yeah.
Right? So we can all learn, we can all contribute to the soccer community. And it's individuals like yourself and other people, Seydou, Miriam, and list goes on to our advisory board that have made this thing possible. This is for the community. This is for the soccer community. Like, I think it's important that we all bring collective efforts to continue to develop the game. Not only the African Cup of Nations, we have the All Nations. We have the sports without boundaries. There's something involvement for everyone, either as a coach, as a parent, as a volunteer. Like, there's something. If you love the game, there's something for you.
Absolutely. And that's why I just wanted to say, like, working alongside, like, whether it be Miriam, whether it be Mess, anyone players from SWB, like Abdu, Seydou.
Yeah.
There's always that like, for me, reason I was really excited about this project is because I want to give back to the community and for soccer and grow the game here. I want us to be in the World Cup competing for the World Cup trophy.
I imagine.
And, like, for example, whether the Nations Cup or even like this past weekend, like, I don't mind staying up to like 2 a.m.
That's dedication right there. Passion for the game.
And then developing then uploading the games, get the people excited about it, right?
Always.
It's just like those little things, like I look back at it and when I complete it, I'm like, I take back, I find so much enjoyment out of it. Because not only like it's just one of those things like you're leading the way, you're showing so much innovation, growing the game, but then it's also like, hey, let's make Canada. Let's make this, like, let's develop the Canada's game here and let's try and achieve it to what it can be.
Yeah.
And providing that support, like you said, with Sports Without Boundaries and different other programs, I think the sky's the limit. Yeah. And I think especially Winnipeg and now Ontario is especially lucky to have someone like you being a visionary, leading the way and ushering in kind of a new era and bring this excitement to the game we haven't really seen in a long time. And unfortunately, I'm able to play in the tournament. I'm able to work in the tournament, so I kind of get to see both ends.
Yes, yeah.
But being on the ground level, being at the other side of it, it's just an amazing experience. I can only imagine what's going to be like 10 years from now, and where we can see this, because this is going to be like the summer tournament, but also the winter tournament. It's a marquee event.
Yeah, and one of the visionary part is we want to create kind of down the nations, where you get the winners from Ontario's, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and compete now on become like a big, big, big one. So it'll be the top teams from each province, right? But that will require a lot of resources, but that's a concept that we're working on.
And hey, you know what? And that's something that's definitely achievable, like they do with nationals every year for the team who wins Premier and stuff.
Exactly.
So I can only imagine what those games will look like, especially with all different cultures, like whether it be like, let's say the East Indian community, or like any, like, let's say Nigeria, Congo, or like I'd be curious to see what the top teams are in like Alberta, BC, even Ontario. It'd be really cool to see who wins this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's interesting. I think not to disclose anything, but I think I know some teams that they're just phenomenal, man. They just have good teams, teams. But the interesting thing, I'm seeing a lot of parallel. The teams that are good here, like Congo, Nigeria, same thing there, Congo, Nigeria. But you have in Ontario, I'm seeing Somalia, Eritrea. Ooh, boy. Young guys can play ball.
Wow.
Right? And then Ghana, of course. Ghana is it's always somehow top talent, somehow.
That would be something else to see. And then also be really curious to see which provincial team comes out on top, right?
We'll see. Maybe you should come out to August 10th to Ontario for that finals and capture some content, interview some of the players. Would be nice.
Oh, absolutely. And I do plan on wanting to do that. Miriam did reach out to me about it.
Okay. Yeah, I talked to Miriam yesterday. We're trying to get some place where we can all stay. Yeah. But of course, play for your own flight. But it would be cool to have you.
I'd be more than happy to go because, it's, again, giving back to the community. And I think it's an experience that I wouldn't want to miss out on. So, Gode, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me here. I think we're just over an hour. I don't know the exact time, but I know you're a busy guy, so I do apologize. And
no problem.
But again, I would love to have you back on the podcast sometime soon just to talk about other things about the game and just about other aspects of coaching, development for players, and just how we can talk about that going forward. But before we close the podcast, is there any projects other than what we talked about that you're kind of working on? Like I know you got your own GK Couture
Yes.
business, so I don't know if you want to shout that out or...
Yeah, even right now, actually, I'm leaving here to go do some meeting with some clients for weddings. So what we do, we make custom clothing, graduation, wedding, and whatever you name it. So that's what I do outside the soccer community. Kind of a little bit of a break, right? Because if I coach, I organize, sometimes it's too much, right? I think in any other projects for soccer, you will know. You understand in the team. So people just gotta follow us on social media, check out our website to read more about some of the things that are coming. But we're trying to develop another concept in winter, which is called Play for Mental Health. Is where you don't have to have a team. It's gonna be at the Replex. You come, just drop in and play with everybody, and you go home, right? So kind of because winter is like it's very hard to get, but we wanna have some concept like that. People who are, dealing with depression during the cold month, feel like, I'm looking for somewhere to kick the ball. As a Replex, maybe we say every Friday, pick up. It's a kind of a pickup kind of a thing, right? Yeah. It's not going to be teams, but you come, you register. We go, or maybe we may say just maybe $20 the whole month. So which is like $5 each time you come. Then you can just play maybe for 2 hours, right? And you connect with people, connect with the soccer community, you engage. The other cool project that we're hoping to work is the esports game, right? So that is it's always something I'm working on. We're working on and make sure that, trust me, there's a lot yet to come, but one thing at a time. And I have a lot to unpack. Unfortunately, this today 1 hour is just a little bit of what's coming.
Absolutely. And again, more to come on that. And I can only imagine how many people say I'm the best FC24 player. Imagine online African Cup of Nations tournament.
Oh yes.
Woo.
Imagine. Everybody always said they're the best at FIFA. It's like, until game on. Right?
Yeah.
So that would be a concept that we're trying, as we're looking at digital world, some people we're trying to see on that. If we can get out of our house in minus 40 or minus 30 in Winnipeg, maybe we can create a concept like that.
Absolutely.
And stream it live, imagine, and just seeing. That would be a concept.
What an amazing idea.
Yeah.
I think we're going to talk about that. So again, thank you so much, Gode, for joining us here today. Yeah. For those watching, thank you so much for watching this podcast, and hopefully you got to learn something just more about the game of soccer, whether it be coaching, player development, and also just how we're bringing the beautiful game here in Canada with our communities. Make sure you follow SWB, the Canada Cup Nations Instagram, YouTube, all social media links will be in the description. Gode, again, thank you so much. And we'll have you on soon.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure and it's an honor to share just stories. I learned so much from your side, and I'm super excited to see, where this podcast will be. It's something we needed. It's local, and let's all support it. For those who are listening to, all shout out goes to Keith. He's the man, he's the myth, and he's the legend. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, Gode. That's high praise from the visionary himself.
Yeah, thank you.